Today is Wednesday, and we're talking about introduction to computers. I'm actually recording this on Saturday. Tech Den, we already had it. That went over really well. Had about 4 or 5 students there. Career fair coming up April 4th. You should check it out. Alright. We are in week 9. In fact, we've finished up week 9 already. Let's go through some of the key things. We start the unit on communications, communications equipment. We'll talk about that, devices, network devices. We're going to cover that here in a little bit. Reviewed protocols and talked a lot about addressing. Physical address that's in every device called a media access control, or abbreviated, they'll refer to as a MAC. And then your computer gets a logical address, Internet Protocol address, IP. It gets a private one in a lot of situations, not all, based on your location where you are, and then it gives you a public address if your computer goes the Internet, which the Internet is extremely popular. So you almost inevitably always gets a public address. There's some new addressing. The addressing being used a lot is version 4 IP. There's new IP version 6 that's going to bring about a lot of capabilities and will change possibly this public-private situation. We can access web pages using a URL, which we learned about already, and in the URL is a domain name. That domain name can point at web pages. And assignment 4 gives you a pretty good overall view of how some of these things work and some of the stuff we're going to do. Alright. This next slide, I'll try to go over it a little bit like how it developed. First of all, we have the Internet, and we have where we connect into the Internet. And I draw just one cloud, but these connections are all over the world. We have an Internet Service Provider, which is the Iowa Communications Networks, which NIAC uses. And so we have a connection coming in that all the wired communications go on, and then a connection where all the wireless communications. And so here I've drawn the main campus, so to speak. Okay, and then up here, if we're looking at things go this direction, this is the academic IT area. I usually like to write the word academic in front of IT so you don't confuse it with the general IT department on campus. In our area, so the thing we want to understand here, we get physical devices. This is a multi-layered switch, connects us out to the Internet, connects into the college, and we actually have a fiber line coming over to our firewall. A firewall blocks anything trying to come in, but if it has something that wants to go out, and it goes out, let's see, we go out to the Internet, to some canvas, and then we come back, the firewall's smart enough to know to let in the material, the packets, the switching through the Internet, to let those back in. So it creates like a little tunnel, so when you go out, it's going to let that kind of traffic back in. Okay? It's kind of like if I'm talking to one person in class, I'm only going to listen to that person talking back to me. I'm not going to take in some outside conversation. So you have to generate it. Now there is an exception. Let's see, I'll draw that with a yellow line. If somebody via the Internet, let's say you're at home and you want to work on the web server here on campus, when you come in, when you get to the firewall is going to look and see where you're going. And if you're going to the web server, it's going to let you in. This area over here is called the demilitarized zone. Yeah, they actually call it that in networking, where you let people come in to get to servers or other services you have on campus. All of the students have a place on this hard drive with this web server running Apache that they can use. And we'll do a lot with that before the year's out. Okay? But outside traffic can't come down into the main part of our network. For example, the PCs. Alright, we reviewed the media. If you remember, information can be sent across the wire or without wire, in the air, radio frequencies, or through fiber optics, fiber transmission media. And through the air has multiple ways we can do that. So let's just look at those for a second. I'll do that in red here. Actually, blue. We have an access point in the room, and you can connect that access point. Like for my iPad, I can connect wirelessly to that access point. That's Wi-Fi. Now I can take my phone and do the same, or I can use my 4G LTE and connect to a cell tower, which connects into my provider, in my case, US Cellular. So that's wireless too, from my phone to the tower. But it's a different technology. It uses different protocols. Okay? A lot of the students connect to access points. So let's highlight just a couple things. I'll mark them. We have a device called a switch, and then we have multi-layered switches. We have firewalls, and also in a lot of the mix here, or out on the internet, are devices called routers. Routers are all over the place. A multi-layer switch is a switch and a router together. A router routes traffic. More about that later. We went in and we took a look. We went to the DOS prompt, or nowadays called the command prompt. Okay, in which you can type commands. Okay, so we typed ipconfig and it showed us some information. It showed us what we're using for a DNS server. It showed us our logical IP address, and also this command showed us our physical address. Physical address in the device. Okay? So we talked about command prompt, we talked media access control, we talked about in a Mac computer, you can use ifconfig from the terminal. And we talked about logical addressing. These internet protocol addresses, private, you can use internally within your company, or public. Public is used when accessing the internet. One more page. The big picture. So let's do this. Let's say I'm at home. Okay. Yeah, I am at home. My computer wants to connect to Google. Okay. DNS domain name services, I type in google.com, they convert it. It gets converted to a public IP address that matches Google over here. So then my computer puts together my request, let's say, for some web information from Google, and it sends it into the network. Now I'm using Mediacom. Mediacom converts from my private address in my house to a Mediacom public address that we can use on the internet. Okay, so then it goes to Google, and Google may or may not convert it to a private address when it gets to the data center. Probably does. And Google has some entrance, has an ISP. They may be their own ISP, but anyway, entrance out of their into their cloud. Whichever cloud's closest, probably Council Bluffs, probably. Then it sees the request and then it sends the information back. So it uses its public address, but it's using my Mediacom address to get it to the internet. Once it gets to the Mediacom public address, they know it belongs to me, so they send it down to my house, and then my little device in the house converts it to my private address, and it goes to my PC or maybe my laptop. Or could go to my phone or my wife's phone or her laptop or a printer. All those different things we have in our house. Okay? That's it.